Welcome to The Explainer. Okay, today we're diving deep into a really fascinating analysis of a huge U.S. military buildup happening in the Caribbean, right on Venezuela's doorstep. So what's really driving this sudden flurry of activity? Let's break it down.
All right, let's jump right in. The entire analysis really starts with this one question. You've got these Cold War-era bases, places that have been collecting dust for years, and suddenly they're roaring back to life. So what's going on here?
Okay, first clue. Roosevelt Roads. Now, this isn't just some random base. We're talking about what was once the largest U.S. naval facility in the entire world. It was shut down way back in 2004, but now it's being rapidly converted into what they call a forward operating base. And that's a huge deal because it puts American forces just minutes away from Venezuela.
And then there's this airport in the U.S. Virgin Islands. According to the source, you can forget about tourist flights. It's being turned into a major military logistics hub, specifically for heavy transport aircraft. That's not a temporary move. That's the kind of infrastructure you build when you're planning to stick around for a while.
So, why now? What's the big rush? Well, the analysis we're digging into here suggests that it all boils down to two main triggers that are pushing the U.S. to act. One is all about a global power struggle, and the other? It's all about the money.
So on one hand, you've got this geopolitical chess match. The U.S. is reportedly very concerned that Russia and China are looking to set up permanent military bases in Venezuela. That's a major red line for Washington. And on the other hand, there's the economic pressure, which is already happening. The source points to U.S. Coast Guard helicopters actively intercepting oil tankers, essentially trying to choke off the regime's primary source of cash.
Okay, now let's head out to the water, because that's where the real muscle is gathering. And this isn't just a random group of ships floating around. The source describes it as a very deliberate, very lethal setup they're calling a naval kill chain.
So, what exactly is a kill chain? Well, it's a military term, and it's basically the A to Z of an attack. It covers the entire process, from finding and identifying a target, to tracking it, engaging it, and then finally confirming that it's been destroyed. It's a very systematic, step-by-step approach to combat.
Now this is where it gets really fascinating, because each ship is given a nickname that tells you its exact job. You've got the Blinder, the USS Jason Dunham, which exists to jam enemy communications. You have the Shield, the USS Stockdale, protecting the whole fleet from incoming missiles. And then you have the USS Iwo Jima, a gigantic amphibious assault ship. Its nickname, the Invasion Force. Let's be real, you don't bring a ship like that to the party unless you're planning on putting boots on the ground.
But there's another threat here, one that's lurking deep beneath the waves, a silent killer. A single nuclear-powered attack sub can completely rewrite the rules of the game. It can strike from the shadows and just disappear. So what's its secret?
Okay, so check this out. A modern torpedo is way smarter than you might think. It's not just a fire-and-forget weapon. After launch, it's actually connected to the submarine by a thin wire, feeding it real-time targeting data. As it gets close, that wire is cut and the torpedo's own sonar takes over for the final approach. And here's the kicker. If it misses on the first pass, it can actually turn around and start hunting for the target all on its own. Pretty terrifying?
But here's the thing about ships. They can take time to get into position. According to this analysis, the thinking is that the real opening punch, that overwhelming first strike, wouldn't come from the sea, it would come from the sky.
I mean, just look at the lineup of air power here. You're talking about heavy hitters like B-52s flying all the way from the mainland U.S. to launch cruise missiles. You've got MQ-9 Reaper drones that can loiter for hours finding targets. You have the F-35 stealth fighters, Ospreys for special forces, and the whole support team of flying gas stations and cargo planes to keep the entire operation running. And this right here is absolutely crucial. The source calls the F-35s the door kickers. Their one job is to sneak into enemy airspace completely undetected and take out the most advanced air defense systems, like the Russian-made S-300 batteries. Once those are gone, the door is kicked open, and it's much safer for all the other aircraft to come in and do their job.
So, how in the world do you fight back against all of that high-tech firepower? Well, according to the source, Venezuela and its allies wouldn't try to fight a conventional war. They'd basically play a different game entirely. They'd opt for what's called a hybrid or asymmetric defense, using unconventional methods to hit you where you're weakest.
And a massive piece of that strategy comes down to this one number right here. The source claims that Venezuela has a civilian militia numbering over 4.5 million people. That is a mind-boggling figure. The idea is to make any potential ground invasion an incredibly long, bloody, and ultimately unwinnable quagmire.
This table really lays out the two completely different mindsets, right? On one side, you've got the U.S. strategy of tactical superiority, relying on high-tech gear, precision strikes, and surveillance. But on the other side, you have a Venezuelan defense that's all about using local knowledge, the sheer power of numbers, and even tactics borrowed from cartels like using fast boats and smuggling networks.
And then there's the wild card, the one thing that could change the entire equation. This analysis suggests that Russia could step in and supply Venezuela with serious asymmetric weapons, like long-range drones. These could be used for covert surprise attacks against key U.S. assets, meaning the threat is suddenly no longer contained inside Venezuela's borders.
So after laying out all of this evidence, the reactivated bases, the specific ships in the kill chain, all of the air power being moved into place, the source arrives at a pretty sobering conclusion. The sheer scale and detail of these preparations suggests this isn't just a what-if plan. It looks more like a buildup for an operation that's viewed as inevitable.
And all of this leaves us with one final, really thought-provoking question that gets at the heart of modern warfare. When you have a technologically dominant military going up against an opponent that's relying on local knowledge, massive numbers, and asymmetric tactics, who actually has the advantage? It's a question that really defines so many of the conflicts we're seeing around the world today.